Excuse me, 3:37 p.m. I was looking at this time right here. This is a screenshot. I'm going to reference this in a second. It's currently 3:37 p.m. on Monday, October 28, 2024. I just captured two pivotal videos surrounding the maintenance of the crime scene where federal group stalking and monitoring, which is a demonic system. This is, in other words, the government is stalking. And it's not a scary movie. It's real life that the government is stalking one person. The government is stalking with the population that fills that state. And the government is doing it in a malicious manner, such as the demonic environment and the demonic behaviors, where they are engaging in what is trying to accomplish two things at one time, trying to appear as though they're engaging in, for example, traffic stop, and they're in perfect alignment with Tracy's apartment. They're on Vine Avenue. They're right there at the, for example, 717 North Vine Avenue. Let's say they do a traffic stop right there. They're pulling somebody over. Somebody was speeding on the residential street, which Ontario police are doing while they're group stalking. It's on video. But nonetheless, let's say they're pulling over the people of the state. They've got their traffic lights on. They're handing over. They're walking from their vehicle to that third party's, and they're in front of 717 North Vine Avenue. So as far as positioning and light activity, the demons are stalking in the path with the state. The state's engaging in light activity through the police vehicle. That's actually occurring under what's the fake sun. And at nightfall, it's occurring at the same venue where the fake sun is present during the day. At nightfall, multiple shadows. That's the same exact specific environment. That's where a demon masquerading with a badge on their chest, bearing weapons, is group stalking another in relevant position to my location. This is giving you a hypothetical. Group stalking by the state. The entity is in relevant position at 717 North Vine Avenue in perfect alignment with apartment 51. The vehicle lights on the Ontario police vehicle, SUV, that's called light activity. And it's called criminal facilitation. All the other demons, in other words, that are all around, including Alan D. Wapner's Ontario International Airport, stalking over the apartment complex in Commercial Plains, they're group stalking too. While the state is the focal point, providing what supposedly the false sense of confidence that the demons group stalking with the entity that's going to be disbanded. That's why you're disbanding the Ontario Police Department, by the way, because there's a false sense of confidence where terrorism is underway by a terrorist organization that is creating this false sense of protection. The demons can't protect themselves, nor can the demons protect the rest of the entity that is the people that say those demons. There's no such thing. This is breaking their whole false reality, their whole illusion. All right, so I'm speaking to the pattern of conduct where the entity is maintaining the elements of monitoring. That's relevant to that hypothetical that I just provided to you. The entity is maintaining a light source. It's 3:40 p.m. And before I started capturing, as I'm reviewing this right here, all of the people of the state right here are group stalking. Okay. While I'm documenting on maintaining on this document right here, which I want you to look at, this is the evidence against the people of the state. What's happening right now is 3:40 p.m. This is a sex offender inside of apartment number 55. And I don't mince words with what Satan is doing. Satan is using people, and you need deliverance. And until you get deliverance, you are the sex offender that you're behaving as. And that's exactly why you will see the verbiage inside of this document, which is evidence against the entity, while the sex offender is pacing around while I am in operation of my phone, which this sex offender knows, and you are aware of what the demons who are group stalking you are aware of because of the remarkable environment that's outside of any coincidence. It's a scientific impossibility that you just have a fake sun remaining over the apartment complex all day long. It is also, with regard to what is exceptional, the fact that every move that I make coexists with some creation of noise. That's what the sex offender in apartment number 55 is engaging in, even while it's full. She has banana mush for brains. She's group stalking over me right now, pacing. And this is how desperate the demon possessed are. This is revealing mental illness. This is revealing psychotic behavioral patterns. Would rather focus on this demon who is going to be homeless after she gets out of federal prison if she survives. You're not going to be treated any differently because you're a senior citizen who's going to federal prison. You're not going to be treated any differently. Okay, so whether or not you are in a position to survive hard time in federal prison is no other person's concern. And if you survive federal prison, then you are going to be homeless. That's likely what's the case, unless some sort of house housing provisions, but nonetheless, you're talking about what the state's not going to pay for. The state will never, again, pay for a criminal convicted of domestic terrorism in the U.S. The government will never pay for any housing benefits for somebody that's engaging in the criminal conduct that the sex offender in Apartment 55 is engaging in. That is, as I began reviewing my evidence in order to prepare for video documentation, which again, this sex offender representing the people of the state living at a crime scene directly above me in Apartment 55. As you heard on video, the impossibility that loud audible activity is occurring from just somebody walking around. Well, that audible activity is occurring, what you also saw under the fake sun and engineered light, which you can clearly see is not sunlight. That's speaking to an all manner of what are a collection of facts, which is speaking to the operation of a system, which is within a pattern of conduct and not any possible coincidence. You are intentionally engaging in what is amplified audible activity. And you know who does that? Demons do that. And in case you did not know, the demon-possessed are violent sex offenders who begin pacing with simultaneity to the operation of my phone. So this is what I'm documenting, and this document is referred to as, again, it's entitled Woodside Senior Apartments - the People. And what am I documenting? This is the pattern of conduct: harassment, terrorism, psychological torture by the entity. The demon, the sex offender, they're at the apartment complex where the sunrise is already documented. The sunrise at this apartment, Apartment 51, at 7:18 in the morning, and the documented sunset at the same exact apartment complex at 6:27 p.m. You are looking at the same pattern of conduct, for example, regarding the hypothetical that I just referenced at the beginning of this movie, excuse me, not this movie, at the beginning of this video. The police, for example, engaging in a traffic stop. That's what you're looking at on the surface at at the venue of 717 North Vine Avenue. That's called relevant positioning. Your group stalking by virtue of your address where you live, and you will be prosecuted like every other demon at Woodside Senior Apartments. The entities rising and setting the sun. You are in relevant position. You're in the zone of relevant position. You're engaged in state surveillance. And the police that maintain a traffic stop at that address are engaged in relevant position as well, using the police lights. It's a method of light activity in the same way that fake sun at the end of the day is in that same exact position where the demons using an Ontario police vehicle or an Ontario Fire Department vehicle or an American Medical Response ambulance. It's the same pattern of conduct. It's light activity. You were seeing that through the placement of the fake sun in that same position relative to the location of 717 North Vine Avenue in Ontario, California. You're understanding the pattern of stalking in the path with light. The path where I'm located. I'm inside of Apartment 51, so the fake sun is maintaining presence in my path directly at the top of my head throughout the duration of the day. This is what I capture when I open up the front door of Apartment 51. While I'm capturing the so-called sunrise, why do I call it so-called? Because the natural environment does not include the sunrise and sunset as I'm capturing it at the front door of the same address which is what the evidence shows at Woodside Senior. This is showing the entity's intentional engagement, okay? As I zoom out right now, the sex offender inside of 55 begins moving. That's a demon, just like you witnessed on video, who is stalking with regard to audible activity with regard to your operation of a communication device and with regard to your physical movement. That's a violent sex offender. Monitoring the genitalia of another is the basis upon which everybody in apartments 33 through 64, they're all going to federal prison. They're based on the structure of this apartment complex. They're maintaining criminal presence in the path on behalf of the government. They're all losing federal housing benefits, the entire property. They're all domestic terrorists. They're all going to be prosecuted. But these demons that are devoted to maintaining criminal presence in the path, making sure that you're surrounded. Nobody's missing your beast-like conduct because you're hiding inside of an apartment building. The entity knows exactly, and the entity meaning the federal government, who's going to prosecute you by virtue of my blowing the whistle and breaking down every method of your criminal system. You're all going to federal prison for it. All units inside of apartments 33 through 64, which is all the demons inside of the apartment building that I'm inside of, who are maintaining a chief means of amplification, not only through the Ontario International Airport, not only through the amplified Union Pacific train, impossible to hear inside of the apartment at this distance. Just pay attention on a map. Look at where the train tracks is. And also with regard to the demon that's living at a crime scene inside of Apartment 55. Okay, she's going to federal prison, okay? And she's doing so with regard, this is exactly what I mean. She's a chief means. This is a demon-possessed person. This is a violent sex offender. This is a psychopath. This is a threat to herself. She's a threat to the public. She's a threat to children. In case you did not know, the demon-possessed, the group stalker, is that which is inclined to have sex penetrate children. They're the type to rape men and women outside of your consent. They are the type to engage in sexual violence, to engage in acts of violence amongst the public, and for no reason whatsoever. But I want to be clear, there is no legitimate reason to engage in any of that which I just mentioned. Okay, I'm speaking to the terrorists who are ticking time bombs. They are walking around right now without any label on them. And it is for the benefit of the American public that domestic terrorists, that the demon possessed, which is what you know, you and I know, as I'm exposing them, the demon possessed. Who are the domestic terrorists? They are group stalking, and it includes the city of Ontario. Okay, at every level of government in the state is engaged in state surveillance. It is group stalking, and this is again occurring at a little rinky-dink apartment complex, Woodside Senior Apartments, where the sun is rising and setting. And sex offenders, such as the one inside of apartment 55, is maintaining audible activity with every minor move I make. And you need to understand that this is a sex offender doing the exact same thing when my panties are down, which this sex offender, it knocks their socks off. They get off on that. Okay. And I'm speaking to what is their sexual perversion, not mine. Okay, I'm speaking to what reflects upon their character, their downfall with regard to what's wrong with them mentally, not mine. Okay, and reporting sexual violence again bears nothing with regard to the targeted individual. Reporting criminal conduct that is entirely psychotic, revealing the mental illness of another, has no reflection upon the targeted individual. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct and doing so with impunity while ongoing amplification is heard inside of this apartment while I am in operation of my phone, where you see the fake sun, you see the engineer light, and you are also aware of what is a sex offender that's acting in concert with all the rest of the demons who you saw pacing in the video. The demon from apartment 41 and the female, that's also a demon, and they're walking in opposite directions. Those demons were pacing. That's what a whole population, that's all they're doing in the sky space. They're pacing all around me in a demonic environment where a fake sun remains over the apartment complex from the beginning until the end of the day. You see the government engaging in that while they fly over the apartment complex and around the apartment complex in helicopters. You see the government doing that when they engage in that which I just exposed in a hypothetical. For example, a traffic stop in alignment to me inside of apartment 51 in the engineer light under the fake sun, creating light activity, which is what demons do in the specific environment to criminally monitor. They also do so while masquerading as law enforcement agencies to communicate a threat to that person whom they're secretly targeting. Doing so in a manner that is never supposed to be suspected, never anticipated of actually being proven and established as a matter of tangible evidence that nobody will disregard. No one. This is the entity that's going to be exposed in public and prosecuted in federal court. The entity is doing so, I want to be clear, with the demon who is a chief means of amplified audible activity and at Woodside Senior Apartments, which is the criminal engagement by the entire population. The demon-possessed entity acts through one person, speaks through one person, and in the same way speaks through all of them and acts through all of them all at once. This is why you have a population under a fake sun stalking as one wherever it is that I go. And as I go nowhere, so the fake sun goes nowhere, and it's pointing to exactly who's stalking, all of the entity. Okay, the entity is doing so again. I just want to document this, and then I'm going to show you regarding the video that I just captured and the fake sun that's exactly as I described, remaining over the hotel room window in an entirely different city in a manner that is irreconcilable with what is ever possible to naturally occur, and doing so with regard to what is revealing malice and intent, and also then willfulness. This is, you're communicating, you're screaming at the top of your lungs, which the federal government is all ears. You don't want your freedom. You don't want to maintain citizenship in this country where it applies. You don't want to maintain custody of your children. You're a threat to them. You also don't want to maintain any sort of benefits, such as housing benefits from the state and the feds, because they refuse to support any sex offender or terrorist. That's literally the opposite of the purpose of such systems, of such programs. And it goes for Avanath Capital Management. It goes for Woodside Senior Apartments. They're a group stalker. You will not participate. You're not qualified to be a provider of such programs, while you as a corporate actor are group stalking as well. And that is also shown through the evidence where the state and the people of the state are group stalking on your real property, with your employees, with those whom you have contracts with, the vendors. Every single last demon-possessed third party and state actor are group stalking with Woodside Senior Apartments, with Avanath Capital Management, LLC, in conformity to a pattern of conduct that is statewide. And it is simultaneously exposing demon possession. So I just want to make sure I document this, because this is what is being captured 24/7. While again, this demon, who I'm going to show you this sex offender again up close, she's going to federal prison. And the likes of her will never have any housing benefits, and that's justice, because you don't want to house sex offenders, not amongst the population that they're threatening. Perhaps there's a population of sex offenders, they can live together, but the purpose of the prosecution of the state is to inform the masses And it's also to protect you and label criminals accordingly. The demon-possessed sought to engage in murdering and kidnapping American citizens with the government and never be held accountable for it. That's the malice of serving Satan and engaging in what is the demonic system of group stalking. That's what the entity sought to engage in. And the expiration date for that, it has long passed. And so you have very foolish demons, such as the one in 55, who's going to federal prison just for being a fool, okay? But again, that's to your benefit. The entity, and to your benefit, I'm meaning those that are witnessing the exposure of public corruption in California. And this public corruption is centered around what Satan is using. Literally, Satan has prostituted the use of the government with regard to those not just the government, but the constituents of the state who are in the shoes of the government. It's the government that's interested in maintaining surveillance, and the government is abusing its position while doing so through the very constituents. And that's how you have the police stalking you while you're just physically surrounded by your neighbors. But that's actually not your neighbor. You're reconciling the specific environment with the constructive presence of the state. Where that specific environment is, that's where the government is always stalking. And now where the government is always stalking, it's not reasonable to suggest that all of a sudden the government's not stalking because you didn't catch them on that day in helicopters, or you can't see them around the corner where the group stalking on the street adjacent to Vine Avenue, for example. They're on San Antonio stalking in the path with light activity. Oh no, they're still stalking in a manner that you cannot visibly witness. That does not mean that they're not engaged. Everything that the entity is doing in that specific environment is speaking to the ongoing intentional maintenance of that stalking system, which is already supported. It's already proven through the body of evidence. The entity is doing so on a 24-hour basis, and it is revealing severe mental illness. No mentally severe sex offending stalker will ever work for police departments, okay? Not in California, at least. The entity will never engage in what is living around the population who are the American citizens subject to this targeting system, okay? Not in California. The entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct in the presence and in the so-called absence of the demons that is Tracy Banks. This is a witch. Federal group stalking monitoring, as you will learn, this is demonic activity. It's the practice of witchcraft, and all the entity is doing is targeting you in a manner that you're not supposed to be able to prove, and then they use that to either murder you and then claim that you killed yourself because you were mentally ill, criminal defamation upon murder, and also kidnapping you through the guise of you're never supposed to be able to prove group stalking through what are the demons who are group stalking you, and then because you can't prove it, they are successful in criminally defaming you. That is falsely depicting your character as suffering from some mental illness while you sit kidnapped inside of their facilities where they're still group stalking you. The entity is engaging in this system statewide, and this is exposing public corruption in all counties throughout the entirety of the state. And the malice and the intentional engagement in that is shown through the remarkable environment, which is entirely impossible to naturally maintain. It is literally at the service of Satan, and all of Satan's minions are thereby exposed. And Satan, I want to be clear, and not only is this revealing demon possession, this is revealing the reality of the Lord Jesus Christ. Satan is not the star. Satan is not a God. Satan is clearly not all powerful and all knowing. He's not the omniscient, all knowing God. And that's why he's targeting one person. And the Lord is using me to speak to what Satan is doing through a population, through an entirely corrupt government, everywhere. People that I don't even have to meet, and you know exactly what they're doing. All right. This is speaking to what are implications regarding laws that need to change, regarding the public policies to deal with sex offenders such as the demon inside of apartment 55. So the entity filling this apartment with impossible light activity reflecting off of the hardwood floor that you see inside of apartment 51, while this demon in 55 is pacing around. And so are all the demons. Apartments 33 through 64, they're all going to federal prison. I just want to document that in this video. While I'm speaking, the illumination on the inside of this apartment is what is occurring, and the entity is doing so with specific knowledge of what's being documented, okay? This is what I'm referencing. This is illumination. This is not sunlight. This is impossible to exist. It's currently 3:56 p.m. I'm capturing video at the Victorville Holiday Inn on Palmdale Road, where the fake sun remains over my hotel room window, which is not creating any light underneath the patio structure on the interior of this apartment, through underneath and shooting onto the ground. That's also not going to illuminate the inside, where I will show you what is occurring. This is illumination. This is demonic. This is not sunlight, okay? That's illumination. This is what's occurring while the demon-possessed entity, including the Ontario Police, including Alan D. Wabner's Ontario International Airport, including the demon in 55 who's going to federal prison, along with all the other demons who are going to federal prison at Woodside Senior Apartments. This is called terrorism via directed light, okay? This is exactly number 2, terrorism, harassment, and molestation via directed light at a third-party facilitating venue, okay? This is not Holiday Inn Express. This is Woodside Senior Apartments. And why do I have a template? Because it's the same exact pattern of conduct. That's what you're witnessing when you're seeing the illumination of engineered light in a manner that is irreconcilable with nature, while everyone that lives in relevant position is maintaining criminal presence and activity. That's the significance of a demon in the apartment directly above number 55, who's pacing around like a psychopath, okay? Knowing everything that I'm doing, including when I'm naked, when my genitalia is exposed, when I'm in the private space. This psychopath, like a rabid dog, is pacing all around with a manner of amplified audible activity while the engineer light appears and disappears, okay? This is the engineer light, right? And then this is, again, now it's shaded. You can still see it, but the illumination, it grows and it disappears. This is exactly what you saw earlier. While Tracy Banks was standing in my presence, let's look at the same thing that you saw earlier. This is the light, engineer light. This is captured at 2:34 in the afternoon, moment by moment changing, okay? There it is again, 2:25 p.m. And again, the more that I document, the demon possessed, very psychotic, very, very psychotic. This is speaking to the mental illness. The more that you document, the more that the light activity will go crazier. In the same way as you document amplification of this sex offender in 55 who's stalking with noise, in this environment, the demon gets louder and does more and more and more. The entity does the same thing with helicopter activity, does the same thing with plane activity, does the same thing with amplification of train and traffic. The demons that are monitoring your evidence that you're accumulating against them, they engage in more of it. That's terrorism as an entity. By a bunch of demons, you're seeing the impossible light activity appears and disappears as I document it, okay? Here it is at 2:10 p.m. I'm capturing the engineer light at 2:10 p.m. The entity is keeping this, however, remains stationary. This doesn't go anywhere. But the light on the ground appears and disappears, okay? While Tracy Banks walks outside, the engineer light is gone, in the shape of a line, however. This is engineer light that's shooting horizontally through the door while she opens it, and it also molests my person. That's a sex offense. Okay, it's not sunlight. You can see the engineer light appearing on the bottom of the closet door. None of this is sunlight. All right, this is intent to want to touch. This is a sex offender that wants to touch on your body while they're stalking. This is what's happening at nightfall when demons are stalking in the path with light, not engaging what is free, constitutionally protected conduct. That's absolutely normal. Maintaining traffic with headlights that are a matter of necessity. Demons masquerading as what wants to appear on the surface as natural in its engineer light, because headlights do not create dynamic shadows. That's not headlights. Neither is this sunlight. It's the same pattern of conduct where I'm showing you the engineer light is appearing and disappearing while a demon comes and stands in your face, aware of what it is that you're documenting about her. And this is, again, as I'm capturing that. 2 o'clock, the light activity goes crazy, appearing and disappearing, okay? Appearing and disappearing. But you have what is in the shape of a line. And this is the same thing that I'm capturing here. Okay, the engineer light illuminating. And what's being captured, first of all, that's absolutely asininity. It's absolute asininity on its face, okay? But let me be clear. This crazy light activity, it's exposing to you the mindset of the crazy people who are group stalking. And their crazy is based on demon possession. The demon possessed are the ticking time bombs who are the likes of those that engage in raping minor children. They engage in sexually violating people and doing so in a manner that that person that they have violated is too threatened. They are too ashamed. They have been, in other words, mentally coerced into secrecy, into silence and shame as though they've done something. That's the personality of the group stalker. That's a violent sex offender that engages in things such as flying commercial planes into buildings, okay? This is the type of terrorist attack that we've been subject to in this country. The Ontario International Airport are demons and they're stalking in commercial planes. Those are the same ticking time bombs that are fully capable of engaging in murdering a mass amount of people using those same planes to engage in an act of terrorism. These are the ticking time bombs who are group stalking, and their condition, their obsession, their sexual violence, their proclivity toward violence amongst the public is born of demon possession. So now I want to get to what is the purpose of this video while you're looking at the very evidence that's going to prosecute Avanath. And the entity is so desperate, they would rather focus on that than, which is not a distraction. It's still prosecuting Avanath. But nonetheless, I want you to see this because everybody that's at Woodside Senior Apartments, they're going to federal prison. I'm documenting in these images and this video in real time what is terrorism, harassment, and molestation via directed light. It's not the work of nature. And that's how you're understanding the intentional engagement by a sex offender inside of apartment number 51, who is maintaining the elements of monitoring on behalf of everybody in relevant position. The 7-Eleven at 636 North Vine Avenue, while impossible light is filling this hotel, 7-Eleven right across the street, that's called relevant positioning. And the sex offenders, who are the people of the state, are doing nothing other than group stalking, maintaining light activity and amplified audible activity, which is also heard inside of this apartment. The impossible, in other words, as impossible as this light activity that's illuminating, going dark and light, okay, having nothing to do with sunlight underneath a covered patio, and creating light, as you saw in the inside of the depths of that bedroom on the opposite side of the wall. This is an entity that's engaging in targeting with light, targeting with audible activity, and targeting by their presence in the path. And that is recognized through the environment. 7-Eleven is a part of the environment in relevant position. 7-Eleven is a corporate actor engaged in state surveillance. The employees, the patrons, which is a matter of documentation of 7-Eleven's business records, and 7-Eleven's surveillance cameras, they're engaged in state surveillance. And they're doing so with the state that's using planes and helicopters. 7-Eleven, in other words, is going to be prosecuted. While I'm capturing impossible light inside of this apartment, while I'm capturing ongoing amplified audible activity, while I'm capturing ongoing group stalking by the Woodside Senior Apartments complex, Avanaf Communities, all right, where, by the way, 7-Eleven is maintaining a business across the street from the property where the fake sun is present as a matter of evidence from 7:18 to 6:27 in the morning. 7-Eleven is fully engaged in relevant positioning, light activity, and the ongoing methods of monitoring, in other words. And 7-Eleven at 636 North Vine Avenue, I literally documented the fake sun across the street from Woodside Senior Apartments as I departed this venue. If I recollect correctly, I believe that was October 9th, 2024. And again, an outright departure from where the sun would ever be across the street, and also be the cause of what supposedly, again, that's clearly not in its face, but let's analyze the highly unintelligent demonic system of group stalking, where the sun is over 7-Eleven at what is 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. There's no sunlight. And in other words, a sun that's going to be across the street. In other words, the same exact location at what is 4 o'clock in the evening. This is also, again, 4 o'clock in the evening. This is impossible light, not sunlight, but let's break down the demonic system, which is highly unintelligent. The sun that's over the entrance of the Holiday Inn at 15494 on video. That same entrance where I am present at that Holiday Inn at 8:48 in the morning is not creating any sunlight inside of this apartment, while it's over the entrance in front of my face, where, again, the people of the state are exposed and surrounded with their demonic methods of targeting someone, and the epic fail of ever being the basis of, again, for criminally defaming the American citizens that the state of California has murdered and are sitting around kidnapped right now. And this is speaking to, again, revisiting the ongoing abuse of authority and power under the law as it exists under state and federal laws, while the state's engaged in group stalking and its demonic activity. Okay, so the entity is doing so with regard to exposing the pattern of conduct. And just want to be clear, the people of the state, and this is just a sample, Courtyard Villas, located at 621 North Vine Avenue, they're group stalking on a 24-hour basis. The entity, you've got a fake church on G Street, Victory Outreach Ontario Bilingual Church at 215 West G Street. Those Spanish-speaking, demon-possessed group stalkers are engaged in what is surveillance, even while they're holding what are church services that serve Satan and are not, and under any circumstances, a gathering of those true followers of the Lord Jesus Christ who are never engaged in the satanic system of group stalking. And that's how you recognize them, by the way. You know them by their deeds, not by their claiming and singing and preaching about Jesus Christ, okay? Satan knows scripture very well. And you've got a fake church engaged in group stalking on G Street, Victory Outreach Ontario Bilingual Church. The entities maintaining the ongoing criminal elements of monitoring under the fake sun that remains over Woodside Senior, and all these commercial actors and all the people of the state, including 717 North Vine, like I used in my hypothetical. All right. They're all in relevant position, engaged in state surveillance with this sex offender who maintains an ongoing method of amplification inside of this apartment, while in the method that you see, engineered light. And that's just one method I'm documenting on an ongoing basis. The impossible light over on the ceiling, behind the front door, across the ceiling, the shape of the floor lamp, horizontal across the ceiling, engineered light, like you see lines appearing in the depths of the apartment on the floor and then disappearing and then appearing and then none of that is sunlight. None of it is the product, in other words, of the natural environment where the sun would be over the property. None of that is sunlight. In addition to that, it's also, not only is it not sunlight, you're talking about what is on its face. P.O.C. because the fake son, as a matter of evidence, is remaining over an entirely different address, over the top of my head, over my window, in a manner that is irreconcilable. This is the surefire prosecution of sex offenders and terrorists, such as the sex offender inside of apartment number 55, who's pacing with simultaneity. That is the knowledge. That is the violation of privacy by a corporate actor. The state is a sex offender group stalking with this demon in apartment 55 who's living at a crime scene, acting with impunity, engaging in federal stalking while state surveillance remains underway and facilitated by this psychopath who's just pacing around in circles like a rabid dog. Okay? And doing so with knowledge of the fact that it's being documented. That's the criminal conduct by every police department, sheriff department, fire department, the mayor, the demons who are calling themselves council members in Ontario. This is public corruption that's being exposed in the city of Ontario. Ontario's group stalking. Okay, that's why in Ontario, over Woodside Senior Apartments, to the outright departure of anything naturally possibly occurring. How is the sun going to be over Ovid Family Community Library, as I documented at 10:29 in the morning? Because it's already sitting on the record, but it's rising and setting at Woodside Senior Apartments, okay? And it's not just at 10 in the morning. I'm documenting the fake sun remaining at Ovid Family Community Library in Ontario, all right, where the entity is maintaining evidence, and all you're going to do is look at it. The entity is surrounded with evidence, and this is an outright admission that a bunch of Satan-serving losers, not only are they going to federal prison, but they're losing their reputation, they're losing their companies, they're losing their positions, they are losing money, all right? They're losing all of that which they sought to sacrifice because they wanted to, in other words, sacrifice me, and that's, the Lord Jesus has said that that's not going to happen. And because the entity sought to do that and failed to cease when they had warning beforehand, and it appeared in the form of evidence that is a surefire, literally a detailed tutorial as to what you're doing, then you have what are very severe consequences that the entity, the state of California, is going to suffer. And it includes down to the low-income housing recipients, such as the demon in apartment 55, who's not only going to federal prison, but the state and the federal government will never provide any housing benefits to such sex offenders, to such criminals that show an outright disregard for the constitutional rights of another, whom their group stalking. That is acting with the criminal intent to murder me and kidnap me, and an outright disregard. No, you will never receive any housing benefits. And where you live is not the state's concern, okay? Housing those that are in this condition, however, by condition, I mean in the same position that they're being group stalked, and this is why they're homeless right now. This is why they're living on the streets right now, because they've been targeted by the system. Those are the ones that are going to take the position of the corrupt entity that are embodied by the demon that's living in apartment 55, by the demon that is Tracy Banks. They are going to be literally switching positions in the state of California. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct to the demise of those who are being targeted, and they're doing so with the corrupt government that cannot help them. The government can't help itself, and the government cannot help the people of the state. All right, and this is exposing, again, the epic loss of Satan and all of Satan's followers, who are going to suffer all of the consequences for engaging in what was supposed to be an egregious act of violence committed against me, one person, but it was supposed to be a glorious sacrifice to Satan. Okay, that's why the entity has been engaging in this pattern of conduct. So with simultaneity, let me document, because this is what I am documenting on an ongoing basis. Oops, to my That's group stalking 101. The demons are aware of what it is that you're physically doing. They're also aware of what it is that you are speaking of. They're aware of what it is that you're documenting, for example, while they're engaged in federal stalking on communication devices in an environment that is irreconcilable. So I want to get to, again, the entity that's maintaining engineered light. This engineer light is occurring where I'm showing you the blinds inside of this bedroom. This is light that's appearing inside of Tracy Banks's bedroom, and the blinds are closed in her bedroom. So this is, again, light that's just all manner of light. You're seeing it right now underneath the patio blinds in the living room. You were seeing it come through closed blinds in her bedroom, and you can see that yeah, those are closed blinds. Remember, the patio structure is covered. So look at this. This is the covered blinds, the covered patio, and your Ontario International Airport were the method of amplification in this video. But the entity is, this is a covered patio All right, where the entity is maintaining engineered light that's piercing through closed blinds and a covered patio. And right now what you're looking at is the same pattern of conduct underneath a closed patio, a covered patio, and it's illuminating. That's concentrated light that you see on the floor, but engineered light fills this venue, which is this apartment, and it's not sunlight. This is, you're witnessing the demonic concentrated light. You could see it appear as it's, again, horizontally shooting through closed blinds. And this is the same property where the sunrise is occurring at 7:18 in the morning. This is not sunlight, okay? Neither is this the product of the sun that is stationary. That's not a natural environment. And neither is it when you're creating what are methods of molesting a person. These are sex offenders that are obsessed with touching my person. All right, sex offenders that have no consent. They are following you around. That's called stalking. And they're also always touching through a demonic means such as engineered light. What you are aware of, this is the purpose of this video, is showing not only sexual violence, but the entity is maintaining this environment. And the demon that's being documented, again, this is the sex offender that's group stalking on a 24-hour basis, and she's not going to be, her only compensation is federal prison. All right, she's going to federal prison. This is the demon. This is a violent sex offender. This is what she's doing on a 24-hour basis by living. She's receiving state benefits, living, not paying all of full rent. In other words, she's living at a low-income housing property, which is also going to be relevant to the prosecution of the property. But she herself, this is a demon-possessed person, all right, very mentally ill, a violent sex offender, in the same way aware of monitoring my every movement. She's also engaged in what is stalking in the path. This person is not a giant insofar as you're walking around this person in other words, is engaged in what is crossing a path. The demon that's using this third party is the method of amplification. So, in other words, this person that's not going to naturally create a cracking sound in the walls and the ceiling, this is a demon-possessed person that, again, the fact that she's demon-possessed is not a legal defense. She knowingly and intentionally engages in that which is clearly undesirable while she's monitoring my evidence. Clearly undesirable with regard to what is engaging in what is ongoing harassing conduct of a federal nature with the government that's stalking in helicopters over the apartment complex, in the environment where you're looking at impossible, that is scientifically impossible methods of light activity inside of the apartment. This is the sex offender with license 5WUB715. She's going to federal prison. This is a sex offender. This is the likes of this one. In other words, the demon possessed, there's no race, there's no age limit, there's no income bracket where the demon possessed are posing less of a threat. It is streamlined, identical. Okay, you're not separating people based on where they're from or their background or their education level. That is, again, Satan's system designed to distract you and designed to have you looking in some other direction. It is the identical condition. They're all demon possessed. They have the same spirit of a sex offender, the same spirit of a terrorist, the same spirit of a stalker. And they are those which are also inclined to penetrate children, have sex with kids, molest them, violate them, engage in egregious acts of violence amongst the public while you're group stalking inside of your apartment building where the sun is rising and setting. You're engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, and this is captured on video where I am beginning operation of my phone, and at the same time, in an environment where your shadow is never going to appear above your head, you have what is the entity maintaining amplified audible activity through the Ontario International Airport. Those are sex offenders, like you can see here. Sex offenders, like you, in case you did not know, you're identified by your condition and your behavior, not hiding behind some sort of title, okay? Not hiding behind some sort of identity amongst the community, such as being a council member. You know what that makes? That makes public corruption, the fact that you're group stalking while also at the same time the president of a corrupt airport who's stalking at an apartment complex in a manner that is showing the fact that it's demonic. It's entirely demonic. Okay, that's speaking to the condition that is necessarily relevant with regard to what Alan D. Wapner cannot possibly, nor will you be able to successfully contend you're ignorant about. The Ontario International Airport's been documented group stalking for years. Alan D. Wapner may or may not have been the specific president over the Ontario International Airport in 2019 and in 2020 and in 2021. But I want to be clear, the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct that Alan D. Wapner is necessarily apprised of while sitting in the position, engaged in public corruption with the state, while commercial planes from the Ontario International Airport are a means of group stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments in concert with the sex offenders that are living at the apartment complex, and doing so with simultaneity. That is knowledge, real-time intentional engagement in that pattern of conduct, okay? And this is the demon that lives at apartment 51. Okay, if you don't know what a witch looks like, witches are not identified through wearing some sort of pointy hat or sitting on a broom or pixie dust in the air wherever it is that they walk or float. That's not what you're going to see. You will recognize them by the behavior, by their conduct, by their deeds is how scripture recognizes it, how scripture points it out. And literally the pattern of conduct is underway inside of your apartment. Where I'm capturing the engineer light inside of your apartment, you're being prosecuted for group stalking. In the same way, while you are the police chief over a corrupt department that's engaged in state surveillance, you are accountable for the criminal conduct that's happening inside of your apartment, which you are not ignorant about. You're fully engaged in it. And it's the same analysis, it's the same common sense analysis with regard to every demon sitting over every corrupt police department, every corrupt sheriff's department, every corrupt fire department, every corrupt hospital, and these corrupt companies that are providing ambulatory services. They're group stalking in California. They're group stalking in Ontario. Okay? In the same way that Avanath themselves, they're group stalking while their employees are maintaining the elements of monitoring. All right, and so this is what an entity is doing with real-time knowledge, and as I'm documenting that, this is what an entity is maintaining knowledge of with simultaneity. 3:40 p.m., the entity is maintaining the light source over me, impossible light activity, and as I begin gathering my phone, this is what I'm documenting on an ongoing 24-hour basis. 2:32 p.m., the entity, and I'm capturing what you see in pictures. The impossible light activity is appearing and disappearing. That's going to be prosecuted as terrorism via directed light. This is all an entity is doing. The entity that's stalking you is always exhibiting demon possession, demonic conduct with the light, demonic activity with the audible activity that surrounds you, that literally characterizes every move, punctuates every movement you make and everything you're doing on a communication device. The ongoing audible activity coexists. And what is the terrorizing light that's not even naturally occurring? This is occurring in the environment where that which is a scientific impossibility, out of a horror flick, but it's real life. A fake sun is remaining over you at a property all day long where nothing other than stalking is occurring by a whole population who are obsessed with your genitalia. Obsessed with your genitalia. Okay, the entity is doing so at Woodside Senior Apartments, and everybody living in apartments 33 through 64 specifically, that is group stalking by maintaining presence in front and behind in the buildings, they're all going to federal prison. The entire property, however, is going to be prosecuted for state surveillance. It's noted with regard to the impunity that they act with corporately. It's noted with regard to the sexual violence that they are engaged in corporately. It's also on behalf of the entity that's all surrounding. The people of the state living along G Street, living along Vine Avenue, they're all being documented simultaneously. Bank of America's group stalking, Pizza Hut's group stalking, Tacos El Rancho is group stalking, the Smoke Shop is group stalking, Mission Cleaners is group stalking, Kids Empire in Ontario is group stalking, the WSS Shoe Factory, they're group stalking. Okay, the entity is maintaining this criminal system as a population, and this is just the people of the state. While the entity is group stalking, it's speaking directly to what the state of California is doing amongst the government, who relies on the criminal engagement. Hold on one second. Who relies on the criminal engagement of a corrupt population to maintain those criminal elements of monitoring in concert with that corrupt government. It is public corruption exposed. So what I want to remind you of is, in addition to the analysis that I'm speaking to, as you will prosecute the people, the entity is maintaining the criminal elements of monitoring at 2:48. I began this video on the bottom, is what I captured today, October 28th at 2:42 p.m. The video that you see at the top, this video was captured at 2:48 p.m. So you've got a negligible difference of 6 minutes, but let me be clear. That's only when you're looking at a micro level. Okay, the entity is group stalking 24/7, and by way of evidence, I captured the fake sun also at 2:08 p.m. What is that showing? That is showing, first of all, there was non-movement of the fake sun at Holiday Inn in Victorville, California. In other words, there is no provision that the sun is simultaneously nor consecutively going from specifically over the Victorville the Victorville Holiday Inn on Palmdale Road to specifically over me at the same manner at the same time at the Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario, California. What you are looking at, however, with regard to that irreconcilable body of evidence, which is documented because Satan is a liar, okay, the entity is engaged in this pattern of conduct amongst a corrupt government that serves Satan, and they have failed in their endeavor to sacrifice me, and now they're going to pay the ultimate penalties for it. The entity is engaging in a criminal system that is fully documented. And it includes what is the impossible environment, which is demonic. The environment which you will juxtapose when you are seeing the corrupt actor Holiday Inn, who is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted. Just like the corrupt actor, Avanath Capital Management, who will be civilly and criminally prosecuted. And just like in Victorville at Holiday Inn, the police department, the sheriff's department, the same department, by the way, San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. They've engaged in kidnapping on more than one occasion. They're group stalking inside of their facilities. They are the prime candidate for disbanding. All right. And that is to not only to punish for the criminal conduct, but it is to make an example in this country what is no longer a secret, what the states are doing, and also what shall not be tolerated. So you are going to be made an example out of regarding your failed efforts of sacrificing people and your abuse and position of government in doing so. If you think that you're going to kidnap someone and then group stalk them inside of your facilities or murder them and then conduct some sort of investigation after you engaged in that murder by virtue of group stalking with that entity, you will be subject to what is federal prosecution and disbanding. That's what the Ontario Police and the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department are engaged in. They are documented engaged in state surveillance and criminal acts of obstruction of justice. These demons, group stalking in Ontario, in San Bernardino County, had the nerve to entertain criminal acts in the courts. That's prosecuting the court. You don't have any authority under the law. You're group stalkers. By the way, I've captured the fake son over the demons filling the courthouse. I've captured the fake son over the demons filling the police station, the Ontario Police Department. Okay, the entity is engaged in an ongoing pattern of conduct, and while the entity is keeping the fakes, and let's get back to this evidence at 2:08 p.m. and 2:48 p.m., that's speaking to what is non-movement at one venue, speaking to the specific environment. And what I captured today, which is again just getting into the minutia, because you can be very detailed with regard to what is under all circumstances impossible, but what is recognizing you can break down. Well, when I'm at Holiday Inn, there was never any movement of the fake son. That's the pattern of conduct at every facilitating venue. That's what's happening at Woodside Senior Apartments. Well, you will recall the evidence that I captured today. This is where ongoing demonic pacing, which is a federal offense. You're not free to even live at Woodside Senior Apartments. The state has been engaged in what is a malicious and satanic system of sacrificing American citizens, and it's supposed to appear on its surface as everyday free society, and it's everything but that. California serves Satan. You need to know this about the politicians. You need to know this about the candidates. You need to know this about the constituents. You need to know this about the celebrities. You need to know this about those that are under the age of majority. Satan is working tirelessly. And by the way, it's through the sexual violence of the people of the state. They molest these children. They sacrifice them. They teach them their ways. And a lot of them are turned over while they are minor children. The people of the state who are demon possessed, they serve Satan. They're targeting American citizens for no reason. That's what I represent. That's on whose behalf I'm advocating, subject to this criminal system for no reason. Okay, you don't have a reason to engage in it. You're a psychopath. That's why you're group stalking. That's why you're engaging in this targeting system, because you are suffering from mental illness. In fact, and the entity is doing so in what are demonic methods that are supposed to falsely depict that targeted individual that's not equipped with evidence to prove that a bunch of demons are targeting them. That level of malice, that's what is exacted upon children, and they are subject to what is sexual violence by their parents who serve Satan, being penetrated as children, being molested as children, in other words, being sacrificed unto children. And this is what's going on in California, in case you did not know. The essence of a child, the innocent spirit inside of a child, this is what Satan is after. This is what the demon-possessed parents are sacrificing unto Satan while they're serving Satan. This is just getting into the nitty gritty, which again, I don't practice witchcraft, but with regard to what the entity is doing spiritually, what is spiritually significant, while you are targeting somebody who serves the Lord Jesus Christ, that's why it's spiritually significant what these demons are doing. And by the way, they do that to minor children who then grow up as kids, as teenagers who are group stalking. It's criminal conduct that they're engaged in. And I want to be clear, they're being raised by sex offenders. They're being raised by terrorists. So insofar as protecting the public, insofar as the public safety concern, you are talking about the entity that's engaging in the contribution to the delinquency of minors, the ongoing corruption of the nuclear family that's serving toward the entity, the state. This is the entity that, in other words, the control of Satan over. And I'm just putting it with regard to geography. Satan is not just working in California. Okay, but with regard to geography, keeping it, because I'm in California, I'm enforcing my constitutional rights in California against the state of California. But again, common sense, okay, and also regard any sense, any remote access to what is a spiritual insight to those who have an ear to hear and an eye to see. This is not limited to California. Wherever you're at in this country, by the way, in the world, you are learning about what Satan is doing, and it is for your information, for your own protection, that you pay attention to the devices of the enemy. Targeting children. If you're taking your kids to the preschool, to the daycare center, it's a specific environment. Your children are at risk. Okay, the entity is doing so while smiling in your faces, and you're dropping your kids off. And the daycare teacher, she's a demon. They're demons. They serve Satan, and they know who your children are by spirit. They know who you are. That's how you have, by the way, the practical breakdown. This is why you have a government stalking me, by the way, when I'm homeless. Why are you stalking a homeless person who's so unimportant? I'm the least important person, right, in the universe. I'm sleeping on the street. Who in their right mind is stalking a homeless person? I'll tell you who. The demon possessed who know who you are in the spirit. That's who's stalking you. Who's salivating over that pure spirit, that Holy Spirit that's inside of you. That's who's stalking you. That's exactly why you have that. That's why you have that. Well, wow, because that's what you'll see in the evidence. Wow, you'll see the same exact pattern of conduct when I'm sleeping outside, when I'm sleeping in a car. You'll see the fake sun rising over me through that window of that vehicle that I'm sleeping in. And you'll see the same exact pattern of conduct, engineered light, while demons are pacing via traffic, group stalking together as an entity. Why are you stalking a homeless person? Because they're demons. That's why. And you will be prosecuted as the government that's practicing witchcraft, trying to sacrifice American citizens. It will be prosecuted, it will be legislated. The literal language is the intent to engage in a murder. The loss of human life, while criminal surveillance is underway by an entity. This is public corruption. All right, and so while I am inside of this hotel where the fake sun is captured, just so you can see, sorry, let me go back. Just so you can see, as a matter of evidence, while I'm at Holiday Inn, group stalking by the demon-possessed housekeepers, group stalking by the demon-possessed patrons, while the fake sun is remaining over my hotel room window. You're group stalking in the parking lot, driving under that fake sun. That's exactly what's happening at Woodside. That's the significance of having a whole fake sun, ladies and gentlemen. Understand that. That phenomenon, that unheard of, that absurdly demonic environment is there for that criminal convenience of the demons who are stalking, wanting to appear as though you're just driving by in the parking lot. You are not constitutionally free to engage in the malicious system of surveillance with the state. You're acting in furtherance of the conspiracy of the state to murder and kidnap someone while you're group stalking. Understand what is supposed to appear absolutely separate and distinct, far removed from the target individual by just driving in a parking lot, and what is in furtherance of the demonic method of group stalking by the person that's in that same exact behavior, that same activity, driving by in the parking lot in the specific environment, is how a population is group stalking you. And understand, when you are merely looking at it on the surface, that targeted individual, absent that body of evidence, is supposed to be falsely depicted as being some paranoid schizophrenic, somebody that's hallucinating, somebody that's bipolar, somebody that's a manic, whatever it is, whatever title that you want to apply to it. And it is the work of Satan. That is, again, the ethical concerns in the medical community is simultaneously being exposed while people are kidnapped, while people are being drugged, and they do not suffer from any mental illness. And I want to be clear, the demon-possessed psychopaths calling themselves psychiatrists and therapists are group stalking in California, criminally defaming American citizens, where they're being gang stalked inside of these facilities. All of that is exposed while you're group stalking in the parking lot under the fake sun, which is not possibly, again, the natural environment, speaking to the intentional engagement in that behavior, in that environment that is deliberately maintained for the ongoing pattern of conduct. So I want you to see engagement in federal group stalking and monitoring, which is a very serious federal offense for an innkeeper such as Holiday Inn to engage in, both through the demons who are on the property engaging in. All right, the ongoing amplification heard inside of my apartment as I am touching my phone screen, and you know that because of the fake sun. So this is just ongoing impunity. So when the federal government is raiding a senior citizen complex, nobody is going to feel sorry for these old people. They belong in cages. They're animals, and these are, again, covered in liver spots. Okay, crawling around in engineered light on canes and on walkers, and they're going to federal prison all the same. Ongoing amplification while I'm touching my screen. Those are the demons. demons that are under a fake sun that is not over a Holiday Inn window of room 427 at the same time. This is where that intentional engagement in that animalistic and sexually violent and highly deranged conduct on behalf of a corrupt government who has a highly unintelligent population group stalking with them. Okay, so that's what I want to make sure I document, because nobody's going to feel sorry when it's on the news that a bunch of old people are going to federal prison for being sex offenders.
This impunity, that's called crossing a path, and they're doing so under the same fake sun over the same...
All right, so that's 2:08 p.m.
Engaging in this impunity, that's called crossing a path, and they're doing so under the same fake sun.
This is directly over my hotel room in room 427 at Holiday Inn at 15494 Palmdale Road. And the entity is maintaining this fake sun from video 2:08 until I just want to begin at 2:48 p.m. I capture another video because I'm capturing the specific environment while I remind you again about what's happening over the top of my head in Glendale at the UPS store, where the entity is monitoring my mail, interfering. That's a violation of federal law, by the way, under existing natural laws. But again, it's within the context of state surveillance. So you have what is an escalation of federal charges and sentencing. The entity is engaged in group stalking at the UPS store. UPS is a highly documented group stalker in the U.S., a domestic terrorist making money, profiting while engaged in state surveillance with the government. All right. They've been doing this for years. The entity is group stalking at the Glendale UPS store, which is what I compared to, while this fake sun remained at the same exact location over my window at the Holiday Inn at 15494 Palmdale Road, which is not over Woodside Senior Apartments at 408 West G Street in Ontario, California, where I've documented, by the way, the sunrise and the sunset at this apartment complex. How do you have that coexisting combination of facts? Because none of this is the natural environment. The demon-possessed population are engaged in group stalking, which is nothing other than the maintenance of that environment, which is demonic. That is a fake sun remaining over me everywhere that I go, including as I go nowhere, and including as I go from place to place, and I show you the impossible maintenance of that environment, which includes a fake sun that is hunkered down, hovering so low that I can see it while I'm looking outside of the patio window at Woodside Senior Apartments at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where the sunrise is documented at the same address. It's very unintelligent while sex offenders are stalking with noise. Those are demons of the elderly community who will not be assisted by any state or federal programs. Their inability to pay rent, if they can survive their terms in federal prison, is not the problem of the government. By the way, it is to the benefit that they don't have anywhere to live, so they cannot terrorize in the ways in which I'm exposing the demon-possessed population do. And they do so with impunity. These are animals that engage in sexual violence, like rabid animals. I don't mean animals that are, the spirit of an animal is actually really innocent and delicate. I'm talking about, you can picture a demon like a sick animal that's also been subject to abuse by human beings, and they're violent. They're engaging in what are acts of violence, and this is based on their unhealed state. This is what the demon possessed are. They need Jesus. They need healing. They need deliverance. But that also is not the responsibility of the federal government, who's going to prosecute for your criminal activity. Okay, and pleading that Satan made me do it in federal court is legally irrelevant, and it's not a defense. All right. And neither is the center of the controversy based on the fact that you are demon possessed. The evidence shows that, but you're going to be prosecuted for the criminal conduct in concert with the state. It is just knowledge for the benefit of the world to be able to identify the demon possessed who can no longer hide amongst ordinary people like myself who know the Lord Jesus Christ. They're hiding in churches as though they're Christians. They're hiding amongst the government as though they serve the Lord, and they're honoring the Lord Jesus Christ, and their position as the mayor, and their position as the president, is their position as the vice president. They're engaging in what is public corruption, and it's outright Satanism. That's the benefit of knowing the condition of these criminals who are going to be prosecuted. You need to not only be able to recognize and prosecute the crime, but understand the condition of those that are engaging in this very unique crime. Only the demon-possessed are group stalking. It is the work of Satan. And while these fools provide a body of evidence against a senior citizen community, this goes to show you how much Satan does not care about you. The ongoing illumination of ILA inside of this apartment, these sex offenders inside of the Woodside Senior Apartment, they're all going to federal prison. Every single last one. While one demon engages in pacing in front of the apartment, like you see the demon of apartment 41, that's Aveneth, by the way. His children, his adult children, his grandchildren are engaged in group stalking at, this is apartment 41 right here. They're engaged in that pattern of conduct with, I guess I cannot select that. Yeah, there you go. They're engaged in group stalking And there, he represents the company itself, who is group stalking. Where your employees are group stalking, that company is going to be prosecuted. This is exactly what speaker companies engaged in. They hired me, in other words, to in furtherance of the state's conspiracy to murder and kidnap me. They thought they were going to have me appearing as someone who was mentally. The entity totally disregarded the body of evidence that was already sitting on the record when they resumed the same criminal system that they have been engaged in as a matter of documentation since before 2018. Okay, the entity does so with malice and knowledge, and that's why speaker companies are so called Carlo Lopez, Selena Robledo, Heather Teal, Don Noggle, they're all going to federal prison. This is the exact system that they were engaged in. There is no sun over my leasing office while it's remaining on video at 3 p.m. while I'm looking outside of the patio window of a light source that's not over Los Angeles Alvarado Gardens apartments. That's where the entity was stalking in helicopters day and night, by the way. That's the hallmark, putting everybody at Woodside Senior Apartments in federal prison in units 33 through 64. This is the surefire system, the body of evidence that is, again, irreconcilable with what is the natural environment. And how is that relevant? The irreconcilable environment, which is a scientific impossibility, is speaking to the intent of a population that does not have some sort of legal exception. In other words, stating, well, if Satan is, because no one can deny the satanic aspect of the system now. And so you don't have a legal argument with regard to, well, Satan is the one that's controlling the environment. And so, I'm just here. I'll concede that some sort of witch will utter that in court. This is not a Salem witch hunt. This is a prosecution for crimes supported by tangible evidence. You intentionally engage in the elements of monitoring. The system is already laid out. And it is impossible that I'm able to capture not only the hallmarks, but the specific environment and the behavioral patterns amongst the population when I'm in totally different regions. The impossible light activity across the DMV and Glendale is speaking to the pattern of conduct when I am walking on the sidewalk in Ontario, California. It's been sitting on the record for years. They mirrored that same exact remarkable piece of evidence in an entirely different region. That is speaking to a statewide P.O.C, which is demonic in nature. You are intentionally in Satan's work, the demonic imitation of the natural environment. You are intentionally group stalking. Yes, you are. Okay. And the entity is engaging in, this is the provision of evidence, which is demonic, but this is speaking to the demon possessed who intentionally engage in criminal surveillance in step with Satan, in step with the demon possessed government who's group stalking. And that thereby becomes legally relevant. The fact that the government, the state, wants to practice witchcraft against you. And what is also relevant to witchcraft, while they speak spells against and word curses against your character, that's called criminal defamation under the law. That's what the state is engaged in. That's what the people of the state engage in. And you're going to federal prison for it. This is nothing other than a massive work of witchcraft. All right. And the entity is woefully unprepared for the federal legislation of its demonic system of targeting. Judgment is so intense, in other words, that it is trickled down onto the earth, into the natural, to prosecute this work of demons. It's not capable of being maintained as a secret, because when they sought to target me, and then the entity had plenty of warnings. Look at the years of evidence from 2019. If the state of California sought to stop engaging in this system in a manner that would communicate, okay, yes, it's criminal, they shouldn't have been doing that, but you can see through the years progress that they made an about face and they ceased engaging in that communication. You see the exact opposite. You will see a heightened increase in aggression and hostility. The entity went from targeting me as I document in the workforce to engage in targeting through the people of the state. The more that I documented the people of the state, then the entity employed helicopters. And that is occurring from city to city and county to county. While I'm showing you, even before I started pointing it out directly, you will see the fake sun over me while I'm documenting people in cities that I have not been back to. In Pomona, California, in December of 2018, we're in that same time of year right now, getting ready to go through the daylight savings time, which ends in November. There is, again, with regard to the give and take of 1 hour, you will never reconcile the fake sun remaining over Woodside Senior Apartments in 2024 with regard to what happened in 2018. Giving and taking 1 hour will never establish what is the specific environment. The fake sun is over my head on Valley Boulevard in Pomona, California, where a population is group stalking a homeless person. They know exactly who I am. And they know exactly what I'm doing. And I've been documenting this pattern of conduct amongst the state for years. And by the way, in Pomona, that's the Pomona Police Department who you see group stalking in March of 2022 with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department under the fake sun. This is documented already. They're group stalking in Pomona, California, and in other words, throughout the state, as I've been capturing this pattern of conduct, which is irreconcilable. It is incongruent. It is impossible. This has nothing to do with the natural environment. And the demon-possessed, liver spot-covered, wrinkly faced demons who are crawling around with walkers at Woodside Senior Apartments, every single last one of these demons are going to be treated as the violent sex offenders that they are. Okay? Grandma and grandpa have no business, but that's what they are. They're group stalking in California. Grandma and grandpa, in other words, you need to know that they're a threat to your children. You can't just drop your kids off at the daycare system center in California because they're a bunch of demons and your children are at risk. If you don't live in California, I don't suggest you move here. I would not ever suggest moving here. California is not the only one that is plagued with this condition. Satan has a full hold of the population of the state in California. But I want to be clear, beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond a shadow of a doubt, because this is not based on some legal standard right now, but you are witnessing the exposure of what Satan is doing in California. You should not move your family here. Don't move your family here. Okay, Satan is lusting after more spirits to control. And he can't control me. He can't have me. That's why he's targeting me. That's why. That's why you're targeting somebody who's homeless. What do I have to offer you? Why is a whole police department focused on me? Why? Because these are demons. They are salivating after that Holy Spirit that they know is inside of me. You understand the spiritual nature of the system and understand how that is also relevant for what is prosecution for terrorism in the U.S. All I'm doing is giving you the tools whereby you can identify with your own eyes and own ears and spiritual insight regarding the threat that surrounds you, not to invoke fear, because that's not what this is about. And those that are gaining this insight, it's something that is empowering you, it's informing you, it's not causing you to fear. You don't have anything to fear, by the way, if you are armed with the Holy Spirit. And times are getting so severe, it's getting so serious that if you do not know the Lord Jesus Christ, you have no protection from what is the spiritual attacks that are happening every day. You're not even aware of it. Spiritual attacks. Satan, how do you have millions and millions of people that are of the same condition? Because spiritual attacks are on an ongoing basis. Satan is pursuing you. And if you are not Holy Spirit filled, if you do not know the Lord Jesus Christ in a personal relationship, you don't have any defense against the stronger man that Scripture describes. You don't have any defense. Worshiping the grass and the trees is not going to do it. Okay, your chakra defenses, in case you did not know the source of those other spirits, it's not the Holy Spirit. It's not going to do it. And Satan is so desperate that people are going to upright and lose their life through ways in which that are inexplicable. Okay, the autopsy, in other words, that's going to be conducted is not going to give you an explanation regarding what's actually happening. Satan is killing people. Before you can get to that place of salvation, before you can be reconciled unto God through his Son, Jesus Christ, before you get to that point. All right, that's the severity. That's how important it is regarding accepting the gift of the Lord Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, accepting that gift of salvation. It is literally for your protection, for your benefit. He already died and triumphed over evil. Satan is already defeated. That's how you're able to witness me prosecute a government that had every there's a lot of common sense that they lack. But with regard to in the natural, just looking on the surface, employing everything that's at work, they had every reason to assume that there's no possible way she's going to escape this. There's no way she's going to escape. They had every false sense of confidence that they should have completed a sacrifice, but that's not what happened. And it's because of the Lord Jesus. It's because of him. I just want to speak to this light activity that's occurring on the ceiling. Let me turn this off. The cooler inside of this apartment is the means of stalking with activity creation, okay? In case you don't know, SoCal Edison, SoCal Gas, they're group stalkers in California. The appliances inside of your apartment, just as ongoing relevant context, they're used as a means of maintaining monitoring purposes, just like the demon that lives above you or the demon that lives beside you, or like in the hotels, they're all around in their hotel room stalking with the hotel room door closed. They're an army of demons who are monitoring. They're monitoring the one who's not like them, the one who has the Holy Spirit, while they are all vessels embodying the spirit of Satan. That's who's monitoring. the demon possessed. All right. So the entity is engaging, and how's that practically working out? The appliances inside of your apartment, the communication devices such as your television, there are means of the elements of monitoring: light activity, audible activity. That is, the cooler comes on with simultaneity to your operation of your phone, whatever it is that you're doing, with simultaneity to your physical movement, while you will pay attention to a fake sun is also remaining over wherever it is that you live. And the entity is maintaining ongoing elements of monitoring all around, inside and outside of wherever it is that you live or wherever it is you're working, as you will recognize the same exact P.O.C. These commercial actors, SoCal Edison and SoCal Gas, they're nothing other than facilitating venues, corporate actors who are engaging in this demonic system. And it includes that sort of hovering, psychotic, stalking, monitoring conduct using that's controlling the electricity, the wattage. Okay. Literally the refrigerator, as you can hear it come on and on, come on. It does it pursuant to the same exact pattern. It's demonic. All right. So nonetheless, I just want to show you this light activity as I am now at 1 hour. So the purpose of this video is to show you the maintenance of this light source. This is my hotel room at Holiday Inn at 15494 on Palmdale Road. And this is captured again on October 18, 2024, where again, I already documented the maintenance of the fake sun at Woodside Senior Apartments from the beginning till the end of the day, from 7:18 in the morning until 6:27 in the evening. That body of evidence was already sitting on the record before I went to yet another venue, showing you the pattern of conduct that is practiced by the entire state, including the corrupt commercial actor Holiday Inn, which you already know, Holiday Inn Express and Suites and Hesperia, where the same exact pattern of conduct is underway over my hotel room window, and rising at that same hotel, setting at that same hotel in alignment with my hotel room window. This is what the entity is doing at Woodside Senior Apartments, where a bunch of liver spot colored senior citizen demon possessed group stalkers, all those adjectives are relevant to my disgust, in other words, with the demons. There's no respecter of age or person. These sex offenders are over 55. These sex offenders are under even the age of majority, where they're group stalking in California. It's demon possession, in other words. But you're going to prosecute under natural law regarding this public corruption that is employed. And it is seen through the specific environment. And at 2:08 p.m., where the entity kept this fake sun, this is where the light source remained, as I documented the next video on, let's see, 2:48 p.m. on June 18th. Hold on, let me go through my videos. I captured the light source setting in alignment to me at 5:32. The entity is keeping a fake sun at the same time here at Woodside Senior Apartments. What's occurring at Woodside is not in perfect alignment with the hotel room window 427 in Victorville, California. This is the asinity of the obsessed demons who are not intelligent. They just engage in abuse of power. Okay, because you're never supposed to get to this common sense breakdown of what is clearly demonic and stalking as an entity. Because once you get to this juncture, this body of evidence, it is clear on its face, because it's entirely impossible to naturally occur. That's speaking of the fact that it's impossible to occur naturally. That's, by the way, synonymous with what is intent. It's intentionally happening. Okay. At 2:48 p.m. the next day is when I'm capturing the light source, which goes nowhere. Okay. The light source remains outside of my hotel room window in Victorville, California. And I'm documenting this video at this time because I'm juxtaposing it with what is impossible to occur. That which is hovering over my hotel room window at the hotel and Holiday Inn in Palmdale is not over Woodside Senior Apartments, unlike what I captured today. While this demon is inside of 55, where this is not sunlight that's going to appear above your head inside of the apartment, and it's in all manner of direction. It's illuminating the patios, as you see here. It's shooting inside on the floor. The line of light that you could see, this is impossible light that's appearing on the floor and also above your head. You saw this at Alvarado Gardens, inside of my bedroom, inside of my apartment. That's impossible. It's not sunlight. It's impossible light. This is light that's across the ceiling, all manner of direction, creating my shadow above my head. Okay. And all creating the impossible light activity that you'll see again behind the front door, all manner of, none of this is sunlight. None of it. And it's also not the product of sunlight when it's the sun itself is in an entirely different location, which is in Victorville over my hotel room, at the same exact time, which is what I
Sheriff's Department, and they are stalking in the path and that's evidence.
Hold on, go back.
And California is.
This is 2:48 p.m. at hotel room number 427, the fourth floor, the same parking lot. We're in this same parking lot at 8:48 in the morning. That's the P.O.C. Okay, with regard to the duration of time analysis, that's what I'm capturing here at Woodside Senior Apartments, where the senior citizen community is showing you that there's no respecter of persons with regard to a prosecution and with regard to what is demon possession. Okay, this is, and also sexual violence. This is a bunch of old people obsessed with my genitalia. They should be concerned about their diabetes. They should be concerned about their edema. They should be concerned about their blood pressure. But they're sitting in their cars in engineer light under a fake sun that's remaining over this apartment complex all day long. All they're doing is stalking all day long, taking turns, sitting in front of their apartment in the event that I walk outside, sitting in their car in the event that I walk outside, so that they can simultaneously walk by, so that they can simultaneously drive in the parking lot, so that they can simultaneously maintain some sort of presence. And that is consumed with what I am doing, including with my genitalia. This is fully exposed sexual violence by an entity that's obsessively group stalking. Why do you have that level of obsession amongst what are supposed to be human beings? That's what they want to be mistaken for on the surface. You're not dealing with human beings. You're dealing with a spirit. Satan is using a population of people to group stalk you. It's demonic activity. It's a practice of witchcraft amongst a corrupt government. And the entity that's doing so, they are knowingly and intentionally, they know that they're walking to their car to keep somebody else under surveillance. They know that they're engaging in what is lying in wait, which is entirely sick and demented, while they're walking by on their walker under the fake sun and engineer. They know exactly what they're doing. And that level of intent in the specific environment is sufficient to put you in federal prison. Period. That's why, by the way, the specific environment is here, because these demons are maintaining their position in the path while the entire state is group stalking. It's hiding in plain sight in the specific environment. That specific environment is coexisting at the same time, yet again, as I'm comparing the Holiday Inn in Victorville, California, and Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario, where this fake sun, all right, because that's not the natural environment. So the light source is not the explanation for this engineered light that fills this apartment number 51, where I've already documented the maintenance. That is the stationary presence of the light source that would never be over the Holiday Inn, directly over my window, over the parking lot, over me. I document a Holiday Inn very thoroughly, replete with group stalking by helicopter. All right, there's no provision for that to be the natural environment, but it's there, and that's speaking to the intentional criminal engagement by Lexi, who's going to federal prison. Okay, demons are going to learn, no, you're not going to threaten the terrorists that are already providing evidence against you. And then you think with a straight face, you're going to threaten the target individual who will blow the whistle and will summon the federal government on that state who's engaging in the conspiracy to murder and kidnap you. And out of your unintelligent face, you're going to utter, I'm going to call the police. The police are group stalking. That's a threat to your life. You go to federal prison for that. That's what Lexi did. Lexi put everybody else in federal prison as well. That's the intent to engage in what is harassment and terrorism by a bunch of hostile demons who are both fearful. They're very fearful, but understand how the mentally ill who are psychopaths, when they're fearful, they engage in more acts of aggression and hostility. That's the public safety concern. That's the public safety concern. All right. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct in an environment that is absolutely irreconcilable. And this is what I captured on video. This is just so you can see. I captured this video starting, you'll see, at 2:42 p.m. It ends at 3:02 p.m. This video that I captured at on Palmdale Road in Victorville, California, which is not over Woodside Senior Apartments. You clearly see it over my window. This light source that you see over my window, creating what is supposed to be the form of the explanation for the engineer light that's inside of my hotel room. Let's go back because I want you to see the engineer light.
Directed light, impulsive light activity, as I have also referred to it, typically when the light is dynamic. There is also engineer light that you can see here illuminating in the corner of the wall. You can see the shadow of my finger. This is, again, light that you see concentrated on the floor. This is just speaking to the crime scene where criminal surveillance is underway. The significance of this engineer light is speaking to what the people of the state, the demon-possessed entity, is engaging in, unbeknownst to you. You're not aware that, first of all, that you're surrounded by demon-possessed people. You're not aware that you're subject to surveillance of a malicious nature. That is merely maintenance of presence in this engineered environment is establishing the pattern of conduct which is designed to keep you under surveillance, not just physically, which is a government that's stalking you, having no right to do so, and employing the demonic in order to do so maliciously right in your face, but also on surveillance on your communication devices.
That's the significance of the Demon in 55 being a chief means of amplified audible activity on an ongoing basis. Every move that I make, everything I do on my cell phone, on my laptop, or even in operation of this television, which is internet operated under Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2, it shall satisfy the criminal engagement in federal stalking, all right? Because I am advocating ongoing definitions with regard to federal stalking that the entity is engaged in, interstate commerce being satisfied by the use of the internet, where the entity is nothing other than all they're doing is group stalking you online. All right, the same demons that are stalking in the path, the same government that's group stalking you is also surveilling you and monitoring what you're doing on your phone, on your laptop, on your desktop computer, on your iPad, whatever it is that you're using, which is a communication device on the venue of the internet, which is satisfying the interstate commerce provision under that existing federal statute, which I advocate as used and expounding that that language in order to prosecute for what it's in violation of as the language stands, but I'm speaking to as I'm exposing the system. This is advocating ongoing expansion of the language as the federal government is learning about how the states are keeping American citizens under surveillance via communication devices on the internet, which is relevant to interstate commerce. The internet is interstate commerce, so it needs to employ that. It needs to specifically state that in the language because that's what they're doing, and that's how you have the simultaneity. That simultaneity of conduct is intent. You know that that's intent because of the fake sun. That's a whole scientific impossibility. You don't have any coincidences where you have this level of a scientific phenomenon occurring everywhere that you go. Oh, that's a whole population that's intentionally engaging in that. And this light source is not the cause of this engineer light inside of my hotel room.
Speaking to what is in
that, what you see over Woodside while I'm out in apartment 51 is where you're seeing this light source. It is so, it's lower than the tree, ladies and gentlemen. The sun is lower than the tree is taller than the sun. Do you see how unintelligent this is? It's outright demonic. It's literally stupidity. This is embarrassing the demons who are group stalking in California. This is something that is revealing somebody that could not even graduate from high school. This is something that it's clearly, the absurdity, the asininity, it's just remarkable, okay? This is the fake sun that is not going to be the explanation on its face. Even if I didn't have this this is very probative, but as you can see, this is very stupid. This is the stupid conduct. And let me be clear, for the government to employ this level of stupidity while they're stalking you, that's a threat to your life. These are sex offenders. These are demons who are obsessively trying to track you and stalk you because they want to kill you. They want to murder you and offer you up to Satan. And this is the level of the intelligent quotient that's being represented while a fake sun is remaining over an apartment complex, while a population is group stalking you. This is the environment where Alan D. Wapner is not ignorant that demons are crawling in commercial planes, flying at an elevation that's higher than the fake sun that's hovering over the same corner where I've captured video at this same apartment complex at 10 o'clock in the morning, and that's non-movement of the fake sun. I captured this video at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Even as you just isolate the venue to just Woodside Senior Apartments, it's P.O.C. The fake sun is at a lower elevation than the tree. Oh God, this is what I mean. If you're looking at the light source, this is the engineer light that's appearing inside of the depths of the hotel room, and I'm showing you the significance. This is the same time. Okay, the fake sun at Woodside Senior Apartments is not the explanation for what is not even sunlight, because sunlight's not going to appear inside of your apartment, inside of buildings like that. It's not sunlight. Satan's been targeting, you've been targeted by engineer light and you're not even paying attention to it. Those of you that capture YouTube videos, you tape yourself, you do whatever it is that you're taping, pay attention to your own videos because you will see dynamic light. I see it when I'm looking at your videos on YouTube. You've got engineer light moving all across inside of your apartment. You're being monitored. It's demonic. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct and is doing so, and this is not sunlight. And it's also not the explanation where the so-called, because there's only one sun. Okay, and so what's captured at October 19, 2024, days later, what is October 28th, 2024, this is supposedly the same environment. So you're talking about what's going to be substantially the same conduct. But you have an outright departure from what was documented on these 2 days. The light source is not over Woodside Senior Apartments while it's remaining over my hotel room in Victorville, California. And this is not over Woodside Senior Apartments at the same time. This is, again, very clear to see. This is very clear to see. This is where I'm capturing the specific environment, and I highlight it in order that the world would be able to recognize sex offenders that will never be afforded the benefit of federal housing benefits, such as the sex offender that is group stalking with impunity. Okay, the likes of this, that's engaging in, this is a very severely mentally ill person. Again, the condition is one, pray for her. But again, this is somebody that has not only this is the condition of a population of people. They have children every day. They're calling themselves doctors and nurses. They're group stalking at the hospitals. They're group stalking with the police and the sheriff's departments and the fire departments. This is everyday life in the state of California, and they're all of the same condition. All I'm doing is I'm documenting the pattern of conduct, which is exposing public corruption. And this is the senior citizen community. This is the mentally ill psychopath. She's a sex offender, obsessed with my genitalia. Every move that I make, everything I'm doing on my cell phone, this demon is pacing above my head. She is an outright, she must be wearing diapers, not only because of her age, but because of the fact that because I'm planted on the couch, this demon is planted in the living room right above me. And you know that because of the maintenance of the specific environment. This is exposing what the entity never wanted to be known. The fact that you are, in fact, very important. You are crucial. You are the center of their whole demonic universe. And you know why? Because they think in their minds that they're going to be able to lay you out on an altar. Okay, like some twisted Disney movie, and sacrifice you to Satan, which I want to be clear. The state of California has murdered plenty of people. Kidnapped right now. They're kidnapped right now inside of California's facilities. While California has no right to engage in arresting anyone or diagnosing anyone, California's group stalking. The federal government necessarily has to go behind the state of California and look at everyone that is sitting in facilities because they're subject to this system. Because of what California is doing. Everything is suspect. They are not there as a matter of justice or as a matter of what they were accused of, because California is engaged in sacrificing people. Because they're demons. They know who you are in the spirit. Okay, so sacrificing somebody that has spiritual gifts, somebody that's aware of the ability to capture the demonic. And because the ordinary targeted individual perhaps doesn't have that spiritual gift, the entity is relying on the fact that they can defame you. And let me be clear. It's not just that. The entity, even apart from recognizing spiritual gifts, the government is fully engaged in just abusing authority, because what happens inside of the courts in California, where you can, just like I did, prosecuting the state in the courts, the San Bernardino Superior Court, where again, Thomas Garza, a state actor, a group stalker, criminally facilitating the pattern of conduct, where the fake son is over that court, the entity is group stalking me in a helicopter while I'm at that court, all of the P.O.C, but he's also engaged in the P.O.C while the entity evaded service of process to criminally facilitate this very system. And while the entity is group stalking in 2024, there is no statute of limitations regarding the federal offenses that Thomas Garza engaged in on behalf of the state of California. Every plane that's group stalking under the corrupt leadership of this sex offender, this demon, Alan D. Wapner, Thomas Garza's criminal engagement in federal group stalking and monitoring continues to be noted. The entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct with ongoing impunity, which must be met with federal prison. Why? Because they're intending to murder you. They're intending to sit you in a prison somewhere or in a facility and depict you on paper as being either a criminal or a mentally ill person. Because the entity intends to engage in that level of a violation against an American citizen. Because of that criminal purpose, federal prison is required as a matter of justice. Where the entity thinks that you're going to avoid producing information about the demon who's stalking in that commercial plane, as a matter of my documentation, as a matter of your business records, it's stalking in that helicopter. Let me be clear. The police chief himself sit his or her tail in federal prison. It is not asking too much, because the entity sought to sacrifice that American citizen as opposed to that demon-possessed chief of police or that demon-possessed sheriff's department. It's one soul for another. The entity is engaging in that level of a criminal intention while you're group stalking on behalf of the state. It is not asking too much when you're enforcing your rights to not be subject to their satanic system in the state of California. And it is shown through an environment that is irreconcilable. Okay, where children and families and government is group stalking, which is the furtherance to murder people, because you like to act in with regard to that system with your kids. It's already known the fact, on the streets in the U.S., it's known the fact that the sexual violent threat that you pose to kids while you're a demon. because it's been my duty to make sure that you're known as a closeted sex offender that you are. But you'll be prosecuted in federal court for the domestic terrorist that you are as a matter of evidence. But everyone's going to know that you're a sex offender, a closeted sex offender. Everyone's going to know that you are a closeted terrorist and a stalker. You don't want to be known as that, but you can't hide it because that's why you were engaged in that P.O.C. Everyone's going to know that about you, and you're going to be treated as the threat that you are. In fact, so the entity, and that's exactly what's shown when you see the specific environment at Woodside Senior Apartments, where I am maintaining documentation on an ongoing basis. Terrorism via impossible light activity, terrorism via criminal presence in the path by living at a facilitating venue, not a private residential neighborhood. Aerial surveillance and ongoing massive surveillance by the people of the state, which is employing the demonic 24 hours a day. This is terrorism, harassment, and psychological torture by the entity engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a perpetual sex offense. This is the substance of the documentation that I continue to gather with regard to the people of the state who are let me be clear, everybody in relevant position, and it extends beyond Vine Avenue, extends beyond G Street. This is an example where you will understand how wide and how pervasive federal government is who I'm talking to right now. This system extends. While, again, the demon-possessed entity failed in estimating itself as being so high, so elite, so sophisticated, so organized that no one is ever going to see. The fake sun is lower than the tree, okay? They are not intelligent. They are not slick. They're not clever. These are the idiots stalking under a fake sun. And you will be met with a federal prosecution neighborhood-wide. Neighborhood-wide. The entity is doing so with impunity. The impunity that's illustrated by the demon in Apartment 55, oh, they're all acting with impunity. Every single last person. The state acts with impunity while this demon engages in conduct like she's throwing her body all over the place with regard to every move that I make, everything that I'm documenting. That's ongoing impunity. That's going to convert to dollars, okay? You will be compensated with regard to civil damages that are designed to literally deconstruct your company. That's justice if your company doesn't survive. Good. That's one less corrupt company in the U.S. You're committed to criminal conduct that you never thought would be exposed. Good. It's good that you're devastated by the damages awarded. It's good that you lose your reputation as a corrupt government, engaging in what is murdering and kidnapping people, while you have the audacity to try to make a dollar while doing so. Your demon-possessed employees are terrorizing people, and you're doing so hiding under a company name. No, that company name is going to be prosecuted. I'm going to prosecute your company name. That name will be known for sexual violence and domestic terrorism throughout the U.S. and the world. The entities engaged in this pattern of conduct, they are not sophisticated. They're not elite. They're not even intelligent. This is, again, a fourth grader can identify the fact that this is impossible on its face. How do you even get this? How do you even get this? Okay, first of all, the sunrise at the same address, and let alone the light source at the same exact location when I'm in an entirely different location in Palmdale, California. And then the light activity, the light activity inside of the apartment, okay? This is, again, highly unintelligent. This is just breaking down what is a system of a bunch of demons who have been engaging in murdering and kidnapping American citizens for decades in the state of California and in this country. All right. It is the prosecution of federal group stalking and monitoring. The entity is doing so with ongoing malice and impunity, which is attributed to the entity that is group stalking with in violation of Title 18 as well. And I want to, while I am here, go ahead and document just so that you are aware. The entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct that is, hold on. That is being exposed on the venue of the internet. And you will witness what is the pattern of conduct that the entity is engaged in with impunity. Let me switch accounts really quick. Oh, unless I don't have it. Okay. So let me just log in so that you can witness the, yeah. All right, youtube.com. Open up the same desktop. just so that you are aware of what it is that I continuously publish on the venue of the internet, which is for the prosecution of the state of California. The entity continuously is monitoring this evidence. This is relevant to the ways in which the state of California is going to be prosecuted. The entity is acting with what is, again, relevant under federal law. This is referred to as impunity. The entity is, in other words, conducting itself as though it is absolutely irrelevant to them. It is of no consequence that the government is keeping you under surveillance in violation of the Constitution as it stands, and the oath of office that the government itself, these government bodies, these police departments, all of them, they take the same oath in California under the state and federal constitutions that they are masquerading as having authority under. The entity, while it's criminally monitoring evidence, while it's continuously group stalking and aware, in other words, of the evidence that's being gathered against it, the entity is communicating, and it's also a federal offense, an impermissible threat. That is while you are aware of what's being documented. Oh, and the entire entity is fully aware of what's being documented on the YouTube channel, which is going to serve as the body of evidence. This is not the only aspect of evidence. This is not the only aspect of evidence, but this is one of the means whereby I'm going to prosecute and also simultaneously expose federal group stalking and monitoring, which is state surveillance. It's demonic activity exposed in the state of California as I remain subject to it. And the government that is monitoring its ongoing exposure, and that is literally down to this low-income housing recipient, this demon in apartment 55, along with the rest of the entity that's, again, prostituting the state, the state system, making the government is paying her rent, in other words, while she's engaging in criminal conduct with that state. All of this is to be reconciled. It's to be balanced. It's supposed to be addressed with regard to this public corruption, this rampant lawlessness, and things that are just outright, it is entirely, it's like, if you can hear, I'm at a loss of words because it is unrealistic. It is something that is so perturbed. It's very highly disturbing with regard to what the entity is doing, the heights of hypocrisy that I witness. All right. And this is that which is occurring. The government knows what's being exposed about it. And the government, until the day that these officials are dragged into federal court, they never cease to engage in this criminal pattern of conduct. And that is illustrated while a demon receiving low-income housing at Woodside Senior Apartments is continuously group stalking. By the way, you have already lost in that endeavor to try to secretly sacrifice someone when you're still group stalking. This is a loser. That is Satan himself. Understand the character of Satan. This is a loser that cannot admit that you lost. That is going to convert. That's going to convert. Legally speaking, that's an impermissible threat. The government that's group stalking you, they're going to stop engaging in it. They will respect federal law. They will cease to engage in that pattern of conduct, or they will they have sacrificed their own freedom. That's exactly how this is going to work. All right. It's currently 5:12 p.m. This is just showing what I continuously publish on the venue of the internet. And as you can see, I've included what is federal group stalking and monitoring as a matter of evidence since 2018, where the entity is maintaining a light source, which is what you'll see in my body of evidence. You will see I started again.
Seconds later, it starts audibly flying.
Prosecuting a corrupt government that's targeting you, that's something that you have to undertake by yourself. But again, what I have had to suffer, it is advocating on behalf of those that don't have to suffer in the same way that I have, in order that the federal government, you don't have to wait years. If you haven't already been murdered or kidnapped somewhere, you don't have to wait years for the federal government to come to your rescue. Okay. But yes, it takes an amount of time in order to establish the body of evidence so that the federal government isn't, with regard to, they can know, in other words, with a level of confidence, okay, a high level of confidence about what it is that is being asserted against the state, what the state is doing, how the state is doing it, no matter that the fact that it is in fact demonic. And this is nothing other than educating the feds, which perhaps you need to learn about the demonic, because this is the malice with which the government is targeting people to try to falsely depict them as being one thing that they're not. They're not. In fact, the entity is that which it is falsely depicting that targeted individual as. No sane person is group stalking, in other words. You're not sane. All right. They're demons. This is the pattern of conduct. It's currently 5:13 p.m. October 28, 2024. I covered a lot in this video, but I'm going to also publish this on the podcast. because of course you'll want to see what it is that I'm pointing at when I'm referencing visual evidence. But again, there's a lot to gain with regard to what it is that I'm discussing in this video. So I will also publish it on the podcast for today, October 28, 2024. And the Google Share Drive will also be included in the description box of the podcast, where you can look at the evidence immediately, and it will be published onto the YouTube channel, and it will be maintained in the ongoing file of the record of evidence against the state of California, which dates back to 2018. Okay, and that's just when I became aware of it and I began documenting it, and the entity began pursuing me in planes and helicopters, which, by the way, started in Pomona, California. All right, a lot of it is in writing. This is evidence that the state of California stole. But like I stated, is the case where the entity is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring and has under any circumstances engaged in kidnapping that target individual. You do not have to establish the pattern of conduct by documentation, which is the basis of establishing that you're being gang stalked by the state. But where the entity has engaged in kidnapping you, that is the entity then is controlling the evidence. That is the absurdity of that conduct. Where the entity has engaged in that, your testimony will suffice. Where the entity engaged in kidnapping you and they exercise control over your documentation, you will testify regarding what it is that you were subject to. And the entity has kidnapped me on more than one occasion, and much of which the pattern of conduct I was subject to, I began writing it. The evidence was stolen by the same department that's going to be disbanded, the Ontario Police Department. They stole a lot of evidence, including the written documentation regarding what I was subject to in Pomona. It was in December of 2018 that the entity started chasing me, following me around, hovering over me, and not just one plane like the Ontario International Airport does, by one plane after another over Woodside Senior Apartments, for example. You'll see in the evidence in 2018 where I'm parked on the street where the entity stole that vehicle, by the way. But the entity was maintaining a group of planes over my vehicle, over that sky space, in addition to what was pacing in the sky space. But they maintained I would refer to it as they're parked in the sky directly above me. And they look like stars, but they're not stars, they're planes. This is what I was writing about and the evidence that the entity stole. And I will testify to it because the entity engaged in what you're going to prosecute. The malice that the government employs is going to serve to its own demise. There is no hallucination. I've established that the states are engaged in what is a group stalking. In case you did not know, it's not just some demon possessed, some sort of witch coven. The state itself, the state of California, is a massive coven. They're practicing witchcraft as a state. They're group stalking. Group stalking is demonic. And the government is engaging in these experiments against American citizens. It's the act of the government. And while the government abuses its position, thinking that they can kidnap you, in other words, and that they're going to stop you from documenting whatever it is that you have as a matter of evidence, you're going to testify to it. You're going to be able to testify to it since they think that they can get an upper hand by just kidnapping you. No, then you just get to sit in federal court and your word in court will suffice for evidence against the state. The entity has engaged in this, and this is the P.O.C. that I documented in 2018. Let me be clear. 2018, any time of year you're talking about daylight savings time, giving or taking 1 hour, you will never reconcile the body of evidence that I have sitting on the record, which I continuously publish on the venue of the internet on YouTube, YouTube is not the only basis for prosecuting, but YouTube is used as a means of distributing the evidence because it's for the benefit of the public. The world needs to understand what Satan is doing. Okay. And Satan is using the state of California, who is going to suffer prosecution. That is judgment in the natural for what they sought to do in service to Satan. All right. The entity is doing so with knowledge. Okay. Seeking at every turn, trying to obstruct justice. All right. The foolish conduct of filling this apartment with illuminated engineer light. It doesn't get any more foolish than that. You are literally jumping up and down in front of a federal judge, showing how much you deserve federal prison. You're begging for it. Is tantamount to doing that. That's how foolish the entity acts with regard to that prosecution of the state. Everybody at the senior citizen community is going to be prosecuted. It's going beyond this community. But everybody in apartments 33 through 64, they're going to federal prison. How does providing that body of direct evidence that they're all group stalking with engineered light, my shadow appearing on the wall inside of the living room where the sun is documented over an entirely different address? It's impossible that that's the sun, by the way, at this Woodside Senior Apartments complex, and it's lower. It's directly over the roof. It's lower than the tree that it's in front of. I cannot make this stuff up. Okay. I can't make it up. It's literally out of the pit of hell. And it's not intelligent. So all I'm doing is opening your eyes to what you are surrounded by, because the specific environment around me is speaking to the specific environment around you. All right. It is currently 5:19 p.m. and this is P.O.C.